Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So today I have come across with a new topic, and it's I believe it's a very important networking topic of GCP. It's called VPC network peering. So, why we need VPC network peering? So in a large enterprise, we as per the network design, we might not deploy our compute instances or workloads to a single VPC. Right? Our workloads might not be restricted to only a single VPC. We might use multiple custom VPCs for the network architecture for various departments, various projects, and lot of, when your organization uh, uh, grows, you tend to have different uh, types of VPCs, right? So different categories of VPCs. So so today we are going to see how we can uh, pair these VPCs together so that we can have a secured way of communication between the instances. So as you can see, I my network architecture diagram, it's pretty simple. We have a project, we have a region, and there are two VPCs, VPC1 and VPC2, and having VPC1 having a CIDR or a subnet range of 10.0.0.24, and VPC2 having a CIDR range, a different CIDR range or a subnet range. So how we can achieve this architecture and how we can enable the communication between the two VMs, that is the compute engine, we're gonna see in this lab. So let me go to my console. Here you can see I'm in my console, and so it's a default project. When you create an account, GCP Google Cloud assigns you a default project with a name. So I'm using a default project. You can create your new project as well. So here you can see the various the default VPC I have right now, and I'm not going to use the VPC2 because I'm getting some error. The auto-generated peering route cannot be deleted. Some issues. So I'll create altogether two new VPCs, VPC1, and since VPC2 cannot be used, I'm going to create VPC3. So let's get started. So there is a button on top of the screen. You can see create VPC network. I'm going to create VPC network, so I can name it VPC1. Make sure you're following the correct naming conventions, otherwise it's gonna error out. So I can give a subnet range. You can say public 1. Region, I'll keep it as US East 1. That's my favorite region, and that's the default region, I believe. And I can put these are auto populated, so we don't have to. I have already done this in the past, so it's getting auto populated. So I can select this range. It's gonna give me 256 IP addresses, which should be sufficient for the demo. We just need one VM instance. So I'll keep all remaining settings as default. It's giving me an option to select. I'm going to select allow ICMP and allow SSH. These two are required for the demo. I'll keep the dynamic routing mode. We are not establishing any on-prem to cloud connectivity right now, so I'm not going to go with global. I'm going to go with, or we are not establishing a VPN connection. So I'll keep everything as default. I'll keep this as regional, and I'll keep everything is default, you can see. And I will just create this network. So by the time it's being created, we can go and create another VPC. That's VPC2 or VPC3, because VPC2 is not, there are some issues right now going on with VPC2. Let's create a VPC3. Sorry, VPC3. I'll keep it custom because I'm not using automatic. I can give public to region. I'm gonna use US East 1. I can give this as a pre-populated already populated ID. Make sure we have to make sure that the CIDR range or the subnet range does not coincide, or there is no conflict. That's very important point to remember when you are planning to peer two VPC networks in any AWS, GCP, or Azure, any of these clouds. It's or any on-prem connectivity. So I can make this as such. These two firewall rules are important for present context. And I'll keep, as usual, I'll keep all the things default. So I'm gonna create VPC3. So our architecture diagram, I'm gonna change it to VPC3. Should be fine. So it's getting created, I believe. Yeah, so there you go. You can see there is VPC3 created. So now let's create two VMs, one under VPC1 and one under VPC3. So we can go to VM instances, compute instances. Let's create a VM. Make sure you must make sure you select the correct region, otherwise it won't show up. So our target region is South Carolina. There's US East 1. I'm not let GCP take the default region, which is I think US East 1C. So I can make this as micro, and I can change the networking to, sorry, I'm not going to use the default instance. I'm going to use VPC1. So automatically it selects the CIDR or the public subnetwork range, you can see, and everything looks fine. I'm not going to do anything else. I can just go ahead and create. So by the time it gets created, I can hop to by creating another one. So I'm keeping the instance name as the default. I can keep it. I can select E2 micro. Rest all settings are fine. I don't want HTTP traffic. I don't want any of these. Just an important thing is the network which I select. So I'm going to select as VPC3. Okay, so obviously if I don't select the appropriate region, it's not gonna show up. So automatically it has taken the subnetwork. Rest all everything is, I'm not going to change anything. I'm keeping everything as same, and then I can go ahead and create this as well. So by the time it gets created, I can log into the first VM and check whether the SSH or everything's working fine as or as expected. So let's log into the VM. It's going to ask for the authorization. I selected my login. Yes, I'm able to, because the firewall rule of SSH was enabled in the VPC. So I'll exit because I don't need it right now. And I can go, let's see the other VM as well. Okay, so this should be working fine as well as expected. So what I'm going to do is, like, in check, I can copy the internal IP address of VM2, the instance 723, and try to do an ICMP ping. Let's see how it works. Whether it works or not, I'm not sure. I shouldn't work because both of these are in a different network. So ideally it should not work. You shouldn't be able to ping a VM instance in VPC 1 to VPC 3. So let me do an ICMP ping. I've copied IP, private IP already as this. Let's see. So as expected, this is not working. So what is the solution? So obviously, in order to make this work, we can do a VPC network peering or establish a VPC network peering connection. So let me stop this and let me exit. Okay, so how to do that? Now there is something called VPC. You can search with VPC peering. Oh, I spelled it wrong, sorry. So here you go, there you go, and you can see VPC network peering. Okay. So it says here you create connection. So how it works, you have to create a bidirectional handshake between the two VPCs. It's not a unidirectional, rather it's a bidirectional, right? And the handshake should be established. So how to do it? It's very simple, so nothing to worry about. We can see. So I can continue. I can say my peering 1. So I'm going, first of all, I'm going to do from VPC 1 to VPC 3. So how to do VPC 1? I selected. So it says yes, my network is the same project. It's not in a different project. So we created the two VPC in the same project. So yes. So VPC 3. So VPC 2 is not functional right now. So I've selected VPC 3. So remaining everything you can keep it at default. We are not going to do import custom routes, export custom routes, because routes. So that's not the intent. So keeping everything default is just few entries. I can create this peering from 1 to 3. So it says inactive because we have not created a handshake. So VPC 3 has not acknowledged that there's somebody, that VPC 1 is trying to establish a connection. So how can we achieve that? We can create another peering. Peering 2 from 3 to 1, right? Rest everything is similar, it's in the same project, so I've selected this, and then you create the second peering. Okay, so let's refresh the page. Yes, you can see both of the peerings are active. Now I can go to the VM instance 1, and I can do a ping, right? So I can try to do a ping. Let's copy the address of private internal IP of, say, third instance, and then I can do an SSH. Automatically it should authenticate me, and I should be able to log into the VM, and then you can do a ping. There you go. So you are able to successfully connect to VMs, or you are able to successfully communicate between VMs through VPC peering. VMs which are on different VPC networks, you are still able to communicate with this technology. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you would like this session, and you can send your comments if you need more clarification. Thank you so much.